Hello Leo, welcome to Eternal Mindfulness. What if I told you that today, right now, a spirit is standing near you, trying to send you a final message that could forever change the course of your life? That's not a metaphor. It's a real energetic presence. And if you felt something off lately, a strange dream, a sudden wave of emotion, or that eerie sense that you're being watched, but gently, lovingly, then this reading is exactly where you were meant to arrive. This is not a typical horoscope. This is a spiritual message encoded in astrology, sent straight to the part of your soul that remembers who you truly are. And I know this sounds mysterious. Maybe even a little intense. But you, Leo, were never made for the ordinary. You carry fire in your chest, ancient knowing in your bones, and a light in your eyes that others notice even when you try to dim it. And if you've landed on this video, it's not random. In Buddhist philosophy, nothing happens by chance. This is a karmic moment. A door has opened. Something in your frequency aligned with a whisper from the universe, and here you are. This message, this energy, is for you. So before we dive in, I want to say something from the depth of my heart. Thank you for being here. Your energy matters. Your presence lights up this space. Every like you give, every comment you leave, and every subscription you choose connects you more deeply to this sacred family we're building together, this circle of seekers, healers, and light bringers that is eternal mindfulness. You are not just a viewer here. You are part of something much larger, a constellation of souls remembering who they really are. And trust me when I say this, Leo. You're going to want to stay with me until the very last moment of this reading. What the universe is about to reveal is nothing short of breathtaking. Because over the next few minutes, we'll explore the energy that's been reaching out to you through dreams, synchronicities, maybe even numbers that keep repeating, like 111, 444, or 717. Have you seen those lately? If so, drop your angel number in the comments right now. That's not just coincidence, that's confirmation. You are tuned in. You see, Leo, the light that burns inside you is ancient. And right now, someone, is trying to awaken that light back to full power. Maybe it's a loved one who passed. Maybe it's your higher self. Maybe it's the part of you that you abandoned when life got too heavy. But they're here. And they're saying, wake up. We have something important to remember. So, will you listen? Stay close, because in the next part of this video, we'll begin unlocking the symbols that have been following you, quietly, faithfully, waiting for you to notice. What comes next might just rewrite your path, Leo. Let's begin. When Leo, the radiant heart of the zodiac, suddenly feels quieter than usual, it is not a flaw in their light, it is a sacred pause. That stillness you may have felt recently, that unnameable emotion rising without cause, is not a disturbance. It is a reflection of deep inner movement. Like a ripple across a still lake, something beneath the surface of your identity is shifting. And the truth is, we rarely notice transformation while it is happening. It often arrives disguised as unease, restlessness, or a longing we can't explain. Astrologically, the current opposition between the Virgo moon and your Leo sun is calling you into a moment of realignment. Virgo seeks purity through clarity, refinement through simplicity. Meanwhile, Leo is expressive, courageous, and loyal to what it loves. When these two energies meet, there's a tension, a necessary friction, that gently nudges you to examine who you have become and who you're still trying to be. You may feel caught between your outer image and your inner truth. This is not a crisis, it is a mirror. One that reflects back the parts of you that are quietly asking to be seen again, not by others, but by you. The tarot speaks in a language older than words, and here it offers judgment and the moon. Together, these cards are not about fear or mystery, they are about remembrance. The moon brings dreams, intuition, even illusion, but only so that the hidden can rise. Judgment is the call to awaken, not in punishment but in invitation. It asks, what have you forgotten about yourself? Not what society told you to be. Not the role you've tried to maintain. But the deeper truth, your essence before the world taught you how to survive. This moment isn't asking you to perform or achieve. In fact, it may be asking you to do less. To listen more. To stop chasing and begin witnessing. Sometimes clarity doesn't come from adding new information, but from shedding layers of noise that were never yours to carry. In the quiet, your body remembers. Your breath softens. And the heart, long overshadowed by obligation, begins to speak in a whisper that feels more honest than any praise you've ever received. There is a teaching that says, what comes up to be released. So if old memories arise, or feelings you thought you had buried make their way back into your awareness, don't resist them. They're not setbacks. They're invitations. Like dust rising before a cleansing rain, these emotions only appear so they can be washed away by presence, not judgment. Your mind may not always understand what your body feels, and that's okay. Not everything needs to be labeled to be valid. This pause, this subtle inner trembling, is your inner world preparing to shed something outdated. And in that release, your purpose will clarify. Not in the form of a grand revelation, but like a fog slowly lifting from a familiar path. You were always on your way, you're just beginning to see the road more clearly. Honor this sacred stillness as a bridge. One that connects who you were to who you are becoming. Don't rush across it. Walk slowly. Let it hold you. There is wisdom in silence. In doing nothing. In simply allowing yourself to feel, even if you don't yet know what you feel. That is not weakness, it's presence. And as you linger here, know this, no healing ever happens in isolation. What you listen to in yourself becomes a frequency others will feel. Your clarity helps the world become clearer. So don't underestimate this moment. It is quiet, yes. But within it, the foundation for your next bold step is forming. And when you're ready to rise again, you will not be the same. You will be more of who you truly are. When you carry light, you carry contrast. And for Leo, whose natural essence is radiant, magnetic, and bold, this contrast often shows up in unexpected ways. You may find yourself admired in silence, observed from a distance, or even envied without provocation. Not because you've done anything wrong, but simply because your presence stirs something in others, something they haven't yet faced within themselves. And in the last few days, if you felt watched, energetically drained, or emotionally stirred for no clear reason, know this, your sensitivity is not weakness. It's awareness. You're picking up on energies that are not entirely your own. This isn't a reason to fear. It's a reason to become more conscious. Astrologically, Leo governs the heart, not just in the body, but in the energetic sense. You don't just radiate outward, you receive, too. And when your heart is open, which it so often is, you're more likely to absorb the projections, longings, or unresolved shadows of those around you. Sometimes people connect with you not for who you are, but for what they feel when they're in your orbit. They may not understand why they feel pulled to you, but that pull is real. And if they're not fully conscious of their own motivations, it can create imbalance. You may feel responsible for emotions that aren't even yours to begin with. The tarot confirms this energetic confusion. The devil speaks of hidden control, attachments that masquerade as care, jealousy dressed up as attention. The Seven of Swords reveals dishonesty, quiet manipulation, someone taking what doesn't belong to them, often without asking, often without knowing why. This doesn't mean someone is intentionally harming you. It means their energy is leaking, and yours may have been too open to filter it out. What matters most right now is that you remember, just because someone is thinking about you, does not mean they are supporting you. Just because you're feeling something, does not mean it's yours. And just because someone reappears doesn't mean they deserve to re-enter. There's a quiet teaching that says, when others send you their energy, you still have the power to decide whether to receive it or return it. This is not an act of confrontation. It's an act of clarity. Think of it like walking in the rain. You don't need to scold the clouds. You simply open your umbrella. You take care of your boundaries, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. You can begin with a small, mindful action. Place your hand gently over your heart. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and say within yourself, I call back every part of my energy that has been scattered. I close every door that does not belong to my peace. That one moment of presence can restore so much more than you realize. Sometimes we don't even need to identify who or what is draining us. We only need to return to center. To stop searching for answers in the chaos and instead reconnect with the steady rhythm of our breath. This is how we become grounded, not by figuring everything out, but by choosing what to hold and what to release. And if any part of this feels familiar to you, if you've recently received a message that shook you, or you felt a gaze you couldn't quite explain, I invite you to share it in the comments below. Not just for yourself, but for others who are silently wondering if they're alone in feeling this way. Because they're not. You're not. This is not about building walls. It's about honoring the space that surrounds you. Choosing whose energy you allow in, and gently letting go of the rest. It's a subtle act of self-respect. A quiet courage. The kind that doesn't need to roar, only to remember. There are moments in life when the past doesn't knock, it simply reappears. And often, it does so dressed in the form of someone familiar, carrying an apology that may sound genuine, or emotions that feel unfinished. But even as that door creaks open, you sense it, the space inside is no longer meant for you. And more importantly, you are no longer the person who once stood on the other side of it. This isn't about judgment. It's about recognition. As Leo, you've likely loved with a heart that was louder than your own doubts. You've given when it hurt. You've stayed when it would have been easier to walk away. That's not weakness. That's devotion. But now, life is asking you to shift the direction of that devotion, not toward others, but toward yourself. The astrological landscape supports this moment of reckoning. The planetary alignments are pushing for closure, but not necessarily reconciliation. Sometimes, closure isn't found in mutual understanding. Sometimes, it's born in silence, in standing firm in who you've become, rather than bending into who you used to be. The energy now doesn't require you to return to an old story. It requires you to write a new one. The Lovers in reverse paired with the Two of Cups is a significant pull. It speaks of a connection that could have been, perhaps even one you believed should have been, but wasn't. The reversed lovers suggest imbalance, maybe even illusion, while the Two of Cups reflects the soul's yearning for true, equal partnership. Combined, they suggest that someone may reach out under the guise of healing, but they may still carry the same patterns that once wounded you. The question then becomes not, can they change, but rather, have you changed enough to no longer be seduced by what once broke you? This is where forgiveness enters, but not for them. For you. Can you forgive yourself for staying too long? For giving too much? For believing in a version of love that may have asked you to shrink? Forgiveness, in this form, isn't a surrender. It's a return. A return to your own center. There's a quiet teaching that says true freedom comes when we stop clinging to the rope that burned us. You don't have to analyze the past to release it. You only have to acknowledge the lesson, bow to it, and move forward without resentment. And yes, that's a practice. Not a moment, but a path. You might find clarity by sitting with yourself and writing 3 things you've learned from that connection. Not in bitterness, not to assign blame, but to chart a map forward. Was it your capacity to love? Your ability to rebuild? The strength it took to walk away? Whatever they are, write them down not as wounds, but as wisdom. These lessons aren't just survival scars. They are your compass now. Growth rarely happens in comfort. And this part of your journey is stretching you, not to punish, but to realign. You're being asked to embody your new self so completely that the past can no longer find a way back in. And when that person from before stands before you, whether in person or in memory, you'll be able to see them clearly. Not as an enemy. Not as a dream. But simply, as a lesson. The freedom in this moment lies not in how they show up, but in how you choose to respond. Do you fall back into old rhythm because it's familiar? Or do you stay rooted in the melody of who you've become? That choice is yours. And that choice is everything. There is a quiet power in the moment just after we release what no longer belongs. It's not always dramatic. It often feels like a soft shift, a sense that something has moved, cleared, or lifted, even if we can't quite explain how. For Leo, this moment is now. You are standing at a vital threshold, where the energy you've spent healing, shedding, and letting go begins to transmute into something tangible. Opportunity. Clarity. Renewal. And it begins to take form in the very places where you may have felt depleted: your work, your body, and your relationship with abundance. Astrologically, the Sun, the very force that represents you, is forming a harmonious trine with Jupiter, the planet of expansion, growth, and blessing. This is not a coincidence. It's a cosmic alignment that signals that your external world is ready to reflect the growth you've been nurturing internally. Jupiter doesn't just give, it magnifies. And right now, it's magnifying whatever energy you've cultivated most consistently. If you've been walking through life with intention, even in silence, know that something generous is returning to you. In tarot, this energetic rebirth is reflected in the Ace of Pentacles and strength. The ace is always a seed. It represents a new beginning that comes with real-world potential. It's not a fantasy. It's something you can touch, build, and grow. It might show up as a job opportunity, a shift in finances, a health breakthrough, or a lifestyle change that aligns more deeply with who you're becoming. And paired with strength, a card that often reflects Leo's essence, it suggests that your power isn't coming from force. It's coming from gentle, disciplined self-awareness. You've tamed inner battles. You've shown restraint where others may have rushed. Now, you're being trusted with a new cycle because you've proven you can sustain it. But even when new doors open, the nervous system sometimes hesitates. It's normal to feel resistance when life begins to improve, especially after long periods of uncertainty. The body holds memory. Fatigue, stress, or even subtle anxiety may arise, not because something is wrong, but because your system is learning how to feel safe again in ease. That's why now is the time to slow down and listen to your physical rhythms. Let rest be sacred. Let silence be nourishing. You don't need to keep striving to earn your way into a better life. You're already arriving. Start simple. Turn your phone off for 2 hours each day, not as punishment, but as permission. Make room for your nervous system to exhale. Drink something warm, like chamomile or ginger tea. Take an evening walk without music. Soak your feet in warm water and imagine all the residual stress leaving your body through your breath. These aren't just acts of care. They are affirmations of worthiness. In your work life, reflect on where energy has been leaking. If you've been doing more but feeling less fulfilled, that's not laziness, it's misalignment. The right path often feels lighter, not heavier. Trust that what is meant for you won't ask you to burn out for it. It will ask for consistency, clarity, and care, but not self-abandonment. And when you notice your value rising not from what others say, but from what you silently know to be true, you're aligning with your real power. As for finances, this is a time to examine your relationship with wealth, not from a place of fear, but from clarity. Are you earning money to prove something? Or are you building a life that reflects your inner peace? Saving isn't about preparing for disaster. It's about trusting that your future self deserves stability, softness, and choice. Let money be a mirror, not of ego, but of the frequency you hold. The universe is never withholding. It only waits for space. And the moment you clear what clutters, it begins to flow, not as a reward, but as a reflection. What you're stepping into now is not luck. It's readiness. And the version of you who's been quietly evolving all this time? That version is finally rising to meet the world. When you've carried the weight of becoming for so long, there comes a moment, not loud, not grand, when you realize you're no longer waiting to arrive. You're already here. And for Leo, a sign born under the sovereignty of the sun, this moment of realization feels like something deeper than confidence. It's quiet certainty. It's the shift from needing to prove your worth to simply embodying it. You've walked through fire, not just once, but many times, and instead of turning to ash, you've become something luminous. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped resisting who you've always been. The energy of this moment is not just awakening, it's embodiment. And there is a profound difference between the two. Awakening is when you see. Embodiment is when you live what you've seen. The tarot reflects this evolution beautifully with the High Priestess and the Queen of Wands. The High Priestess doesn't speak to the outside world, she knows. She trusts the deep currents that move beneath the surface, even when others are still searching for proof. She represents wisdom that doesn't demand validation. And beside her, the Queen of Wands shines, not because she tries, but because she allows her fire to be felt. She owns her space, her presence, her magnetism. This pairing invites you to accept that you don't need to do more to be powerful. You simply need to stop dimming what already exists within you. And for many Leos, that's the real challenge. Not how to shine, but how to let yourself shine without guilt, without shrinking, and without waiting for permission. You may begin to notice a new desire arising, not to impress, but to express. Not to be liked, but to be true. Maybe you feel called to share your story. Maybe there's a part of you that wants to teach, guide, write, lead, or simply show up more authentically in your everyday life. That calling isn't arrogance. It's alignment. And it's not about being perfect. The flower doesn't bloom when it's flawless. It blooms when it's ready. And readiness isn't about preparation. It's about surrender. In many teachings, the one who suffers and then sees clearly is often called the Bodhisattva, not in title, but in essence. The one who learns not just for their own freedom, but to help others walk through the same fire. You may not think of yourself as a guide. You may not feel qualified. But your lived experience is already a lamp for someone who is still sitting in the dark. The healing you fought for quietly in private will be the very reason someone else chooses not to give up. Don't wait until you feel complete to start giving what you've gained. Begin where you are. Begin broken, if needed. Begin unsure. Begin anyway. There's no certificate for being ready. There's no finish line to cross before your wisdom becomes valid. The only thing you need is willingness, and the courage to speak from the soul, not the ego. Your pain doesn't disqualify you. It clarifies you. It has sculpted your truth, refined your compassion, and taught you the kind of strength that isn't about control, but about care. You are no longer here just to rise, you're here to reach back and lift. And if, as you hear these words, something inside you feels soft, stirred, or silently affirmed, then this is your sign. You are the light you've been waiting for. Not a flicker. A flame. You don't need to shout it. Just be it. If this resonates, let yourself speak it into being. Write in the comments, I am ready to create from my soul. Not for applause. But because your soul already knows, it's time. If you've made it this far, Leo, then something inside you already knows. This isn't just a horoscope, and it's not just a video. This was a message meant to reach you at the exact moment you were ready to hear it. And maybe, just maybe, today is that moment. You haven't come all this way just to give up. You didn't go through everything you did just to return to who you used to be. This season, this very day, is not here to break you. It's here to awaken you. Not to the noise of the world, but to the quiet, powerful truth that's always been burning inside you. The truth that no one, not time, not failure, not even fear, can extinguish your light unless you choose to forget you have it. So take a breath. Gently. And place your hand over your heart, not because something is wrong, but because something inside you is waking up. Say it quietly to yourself if you need to, or out loud if you're ready. I forgive myself. I receive what's new. I am the light. You don't need anyone's approval to begin again. You are not here to prove, compete, or chase. You are here to align with who you are, not who you were told to be. If your path looks different from others, that's not failure. That's your signature. And if your healing hasn't looked like a straight line, that's because real healing never does. Right now, there may still be a part of you hesitating, wondering, but what if I'm not ready? What if I fall again? And I want you to ask yourself, what if you rise higher than ever? What if this is the version of you who finally stopped shrinking to fit into places that never truly saw you? You don't need to have all the answers today. You only need to take one step in the direction of your truth. Let today be the day you make space for new choices, new relationships, and new stories that match your new frequency. Let it begin with something simple. Write down what you know you're ready to let go of. Speak it. Burn it. Release it. Do it not for drama, but for freedom. And when you're ready, truly ready, to step into this next chapter, type it into the comments below. I am ready to be reborn from within. Let that be your declaration to the universe, and more importantly, to yourself. If anything in this message made you pause, breathe deeper, or feel seen, I invite you to click like. Let it be a gentle way of saying yes to your journey. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next message this channel, this shared space of healing and remembering, has for you. And if you know someone who's quietly carrying their own storm right now, share this with them. Sometimes a single sentence, in the right moment, can open an entire path. Because you're not walking alone. The universe is walking beside you. And while you may not always see it, the next version of your life is already forming, quietly, patiently, waiting for you to meet it halfway. Now take one last breath with me. Feel that? That's your light returning. Not a flicker. A flame. Let it burn. Let it lead. And when you're ready, step forward. The page is blank. The pen is in your hand. And the next story, Leo, is yours to write.